Hi everyone, and welcome to the first webinar of Foundry Live 2021, partnered with Lenovo and AMD, and it's all about the future of look development and lighting solutions here at Foundry. My colleagues and I look forward to sharing with you our vision for Mari and Katana and to talk about some exciting work that's already underway. But first, let's talk about an internal change. To help us deliver everything we want this year and beyond, we now have a new look development and lighting super team inside Foundry that combines the developers, QAs, designers and product managers for both Mari and Katana. The knowledge and skills from one team only enhances the other. On top of that, it'll help us to reduce the friction of moving from one application to the other. Breaking down the barriers between Foundry applications is really important to our long-term vision, as you're going to see. The team is growing as well, including a larger product team that will make it easier for us to create the right tools for our existing and future customers. Firstly, let me introduce myself. I'm Gary Jones, the Lighting Product Manager. I started my journey with Foundry and Katana around 10 years ago as its first technical author, and then I moved into the wild and worked as a generalist before working in the film industry as a lighting TD using Katana, and then returning to Foundry around 3 years ago. And I am fortunate enough to be supported on the lighting team by Ariel.
Hi everyone, I'm Ariel and I'm an associate product manager for the lighting side of the team. My background is that I started using Katana in the industry as a pipeline artist, and then I came to Foundry as a creative specialist, so I was providing demos and training for clients. And I'm now really excited to have joined the product team and to apply my experiences working with studios to help continue to make Katana the great tool that it is.
I'm Rory, the product manager for Look Development at Foundry, and I'll be looking after Look Dev workflows in Katana as well as the entirety of Mari. Before this new role, I was the product manager for Mari for the last 4 years. Before Foundry, I worked in the VFX industry for 16 years, including various artistic roles across asset creation, as well as working as a pipeline TD, where I oversaw a VFX studio's asset workflow through texturing and shading in Mari and Katana. And I'm being assisted by Charlie.
Hey everyone, as Rory said, I'm Charlie and I'm the new Associate Product Manager for Look Dev. I've also been working alongside Rory in the Mari team for the past 4 years, starting off as Mari support and then working behind the scenes in the engineering team. Outside of Foundry, I've been an avid member of the texturing and shading community for many years. From engaging with artists on a daily basis, I'm a huge advocate for improving our artistic workflows to suit your needs, and so I'm super excited to be helping the team do just that across Mari and Katana.
Let's first talk about where we're going with Mari. And to start off, I'll hand over to Charlie to talk about the last year.
Over the past year, our work has been focused on improving our material workflows. Mari 4.7 acts as the culmination of our investment in the material system, fine-tuning and intentionally enhancing your creative experience. As a team of texture artists, we know that you'll sometimes want to try using that awesome procedural that your colleague made in your own projects. In 4.7, we wanted to make this as simple as possible. We introduced custom procedurals that encourage artists to offer their own procedural presets, and when exported, package all of their reference texture maps together in one shareable shelf item, as well as procedural masks that also allow you to rapidly block out where each layer affects the look of the asset. You can combine this workflow with our existing GeoChannel system to publish content that adapts to the shape and form of your models directly as a layer mask. With both features, you'll never again have to hunt through the network file paths for that one tiled image that makes everything just right. With these improved options to store and share content, we wanted to ensure that all artists were able to access their presets with ease. So, with that in mind, we refreshed our shelf palette to prioritize artist accessibility. We integrated new grouping options for organization, as well as a filtering and tagging system that reduces the time it takes to locate your shelf items. In 4.7, you'll see an intuitive and user-friendly UI that ensures that you'll find all of your content at your fingertips. One of our favourite new features is the ability to view any material in isolation. With the current material shader mode, you can fine-tune materials in a full lighting context without ever changing layer visibility settings. In 4.7, we listened to our node graph artists. We welcomed the highly requested material bakepoint node. Artists are now able to batch edit and bake complex material streams in one action, giving them more control to improve project performance with multi-layered materials. We also added command line post processors to our bakepoint export, so you can convert images to render engine formats, allowing Look Dev artists to stream texture data directly from Mari to Katana. With all these new features and more, 4.7 elevates Mari's procedural workflows to new heights, allowing artists to paint a larger volume of assets with the same high-quality Mari standard. And now, back to Rory.
Thanks, Charlie. With our material system in great shape with the release of 4.7, in 2021 we plan to go in a fresh direction. To start, we have to address our Python 3 shaped elephant in the room with the VFX Reference Platform 2020 work we at Foundry are committed to. This is going to take a large bulk of our engineering effort this year, but there will be time for other features too. A key goal this year is to reduce pipeline friction by introducing interrupt workflows between Mari and Katana with Usd. Beyond that, a lesson we learned from the incredible reception of our Mari 4.6 v4 release last year is that even the smallest improvements to existing features can have a large impact on an artist's quality of life. Therefore, any remaining development effort is going to be spent on improving an artist's quality of life by polishing and improving the existing features across all of Mari, some work of which we can preview today. But first, let me update you on our planned Mari to Katana interrupt workflows. Last year, we told you that Mari has always positioned itself in the heart of a studio's Look development pipeline, and that we see the future of studio pipelines being built on the Universal Scene Description format, or USD. We launched a USD Mesh Importer plugin in the open source repository alongside Mari 4.6 v4's release last year. This plugin allows you to import USD documents into Mari meshes, taking advantage of USD features like native support for Open Subdiv. This year, we wanted to allow artists to leave a USD to allow Mari and Katana to work better together. To start, we've introduced the Usd Preview Surface into Mari as a new shader type. This will allow you to develop a preview look alongside your asset's primary render engine shader, like Pixar's PXR Surface or Arnold's Standard Surface shaders. We're planning to introduce a mechanism whereby you can export this USD Preview Surface along with flattened input channels to texture maps and a USD Shade Look document, ready to be brought into Katana or other USD-compatible DCCs with a pre-authored rich viewport representation. And in the future, we intend to allow you to author looks for both preview and render contexts, so that Mari can be your USD Shade-powered starting point for all your studio's Look-developed assets. To close off this look into Mari, I mentioned that we are working on quality of life improvements to some of Mari's existing features. I'd like to show you a sneak peek at something that is coming in the next major version of Mari. Mari's brush engine hasn't changed much since Mari 1.0, and it's always had a pretty fundamental limitation. A Mari brushstroke is made up of multiple splats of the chosen brush tip, and Mari could only use a single color for the entire brushstroke when composited onto the paint buffer. But now we've improved the engine to be able to change the brush tip color for each splat, seen here with a new jitter ability that fades between the chosen foreground and background color swatches. And of course we can take this further with the long requested feature of a hue saturation value brush jittering. Here you can see how you can precisely control the range of each of these effects, enabling you to create some pretty artistic paint strokes. We've also extended our brush tip image support to allow you to utilize either the R, G, B, or A components, or the luminance of an image to allow more versatility in creating brush tips from any image format. In addition to this, you'll now be able to use full color brush tip images. When multiplied against the foreground color, you can now stamp the same image with varying color adjustments for more stylistic projects. We're really looking forward to seeing what awesome artworks you will paint with these new brush improvements. And that's a look at what's coming up in 2021 for Mari. Let us now look at Katana.
Thanks, Rory. So before we look ahead at what we're trying to achieve this year, let's have a quick recap of Katana in 2020. I'm really proud of the work the team managed to do. 3 great releases in 1 year, culminating in what I think may well be the best Katana release to date, Katana 4.0. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of playing with the new version of Katana, here's Ariel to give you a rundown of some of the features of that release.
Hi everyone, so I'm going to go through what is new with Katana 4. The first feature I'll talk about is the image-based selection tool. And this enables you to select a piece of geometry from its rendered image. So all we have here is the monitor layer overlaid on top of the viewer, which is at this point empty. And as you hover over the render, the different pieces of geometry are then highlighted, and you can use this to make selections and work on your scenes. And that's without having to expand everything in the scene graph. So all you need to do now is send off a quick render and then pick up the elements you need. So the next piece of work from 4.0 was supporting Usd Shaders and Lights inside Katana. The network material context now supports Usd shading nodes, and you can preview them inside the viewer as well. And you can also import Usd shaded assets and edit them with the network material edit node. There are also Usd lights set up in this scene that we can see inside the viewer, and we can easily place them using the new lighting tools. And here we have other shaders assigned to this light as well. So in this case, it's assigned to a 3D light shader. So as we're moving this light, it's also modifying the light that will then be rendered out later on. So this is mainly giving us, at this point, a guide as to where the lights and shadows will fall and giving us faster feedback. We've also made improvements to our network material workflow. So for those of you who don't know, 3.6 saw the network material edit node, and this enables you to pick up an already existing material and modify it with the whole network material available to you. What was new with 4.0 is that we saw improvements with the way we view the changes that are made in this node. So you can filter them visually based off of whether they've been edited, whether they're new, unchanged, or disabled. So from a top level, you can see and filter the changes that were made in this node. The new lighting tools were also a huge part of the Katana 4 release. In this example, we've masked out the lines, so we're seeing both the rendered image on top of the viewer that contains Usd shaders and lights. And with the new lighting tools, you can now create lights and position them really easily in relation to a geometry. There are different lighting modes, and you can place lights based on where we might want specular highlights, reflections, or where the shadows should fall. And this allows lighters to have more control when placing lights. This little heads-up display on the top left corner gives you parameters for your lights that you can modify, and you can also customize this if you choose to. So this new lighting mode gives us a more interactive and easy experience when placing lights directly in the viewer. Here we have multiple live renders running at the same time, and this is part of Katana Foresight. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that later on. We've made updates to our comparison tools in the Monitor tab, so you can now have a couple of images side by side with independent zooming and panning, and this is all about making it a lot easier to compare renders together. We've also made some changes with our Catalog tab, so you can now resize the thumbnails interactively and they will update as the image is rendering. So now looking at the Network Material Create node, this also saw some changes where you can create multiple materials within the same node and namespace them. So you can now share work across different materials within the same node. So if you want to share masks, texture files, whole sections of the node graph, this is now something that you can do. So I spoke briefly about Katana Foresight, and this is the ability to have multiple preview and live renders running at the same time. This means you no longer need to stop and wait for a render to finish to start the next one. What it aims to do is to help maintain a momentum as you're working. So Katana Foresight also provides a tool where you can send off multiple graph state variables at once. So if you want to preview all of your shots or all of your variations, this is now something that you can do. You can pass this through the Katana Queue, which is a built-in render farm system. And this has a tab where you can track your renders, you can see their status or find the logs for each one. And this all helps to launch and track multiple renders, not only on your local machine, but also leverage the resources that you might have on the farm. So the aim with Katana Foresight is all about getting images back to your screen a lot faster and to maintain a momentum as you're working on your projects. So this was a very brief recap of what is new with Katana 4.0. Thank you for listening.
And that was just some of the features of Katana 4.0. I'll be mentioning a few more later on in the presentation. But some of those features are just stepping stones on the path to a larger journey. I'm now going to hand you over to Rory to talk about one of those journeys.
The Network Material Create node graph was first introduced in Katana 3.2 as the first part of a multi-stage development plan for refreshing our Look Dev workflows. There are some features from our original root node graph that have not yet made it to the new Network Material Create context, which we intend to correct in upcoming releases. This includes shading group macros, as well as shading group parameter promotion, and looking to support live shading groups in this context. Building on these foundations, we want to elevate your look development experience with new features we have mocked up here. We want to bring you a rendering material preview window in true Katana style, with customizable template scenes with your own model's lighting and graph state variables. Additionally, working with our render engine partners, we plan to bring you the ability to inspect your material at any point in your network, pattern or BXDF, using the 1 to 0 shortcut keys like you can in Nuke and Mari. This is just some of the work we are planning for enhancing your look development experience with Katana. Back to Gary.
Another exciting block of work we'd like to build on from Katana 4.0 is the lighting tools. As Ariel already mentioned, this enables you to quickly and easily place and manipulate lights while looking through the render camera. But there's other parts of the lighting workflow that aren't covered yet by the lighting tools. We'd like to bring the light filters workflow that allows you to sculpt and shape a single light or a group of lights into the Hydra viewer, so you can continue to work full screen with the image while really dialing in the area you wish to illuminate. Similar to this, we'd also like to bring in the light linking and light constraints workflows and generally make them more artist friendly. One of the nice things about the lighting tools mode is that it makes selecting lights a doddle, as the only valid selection type is a light. But we recognise that some light shaders are designed with objects in mind, such as mesh or geometry lights, and would like to make this process easier through the lighting tools as well. The lighting tools themselves are built on top of the snapping toolset, which itself is built on top of the Hydra viewer. Thinking further forward, we'd like to enable the snapping tools and by extension the lighting tools to work with the rendered image as an alternative to the Hydra viewer. If the renderer is set up to provide world space position and the normal of the surface, all these workflows can work without ever having to bring geometry into the application, as the render itself could be taking place on your farm or even in the cloud and streaming the necessary information back to Katana using Foresight. Just for a moment, I want to talk about one of the problems that Katana was originally designed to solve. Traditionally, lighting has always been at the end of the VFX and animation pipelines. All of the departments feed into lighting, and historically this meant it was very difficult for lighting to start before the other departments were finished, or at least nearly done. Katana solved this through its recipe-based approach of allowing you to work with rough layouts and blocked-in animation, and as other departments iterated and progressed towards sign-off, very little additional work was needed inside Katana, and that's worked great on many projects including Oscar-winning VFX and animated films. But times move on, and Katana is moving with them. Right now, the main way to deliver assets from look development to lighting inside Katana involves a baking process using a Katana look file or KLF. But a shift in the industry has upstream departments wanting to sign off their work with better and better look development and lighting. Gone are the days of grayscale sign-off playbasts from animation. More and more supervisors want to see something closer to the final quality in their approval process, and Katana is listening. In Katana 4.0 we started on this journey by adding the ability to export in the industry standard interchange format, USD. Now, when developing the look for an asset, instead of writing out a KLF, you can write out a USD file instead. When writing out the look development for the lighting department, you're also writing out the look development for other departments at the same time. You can combine this with the ability to easily write out Usd Preview Surface and render a targeted variance. So no longer is Katana at the end of the pipeline, but tightly integrated, improving the quality of deliverables from other departments by sending look development and soon lighting information back upstream, all based around familiar workflows inside Katana. The look dev and lighting artists can just continue to use existing tools that have worked for film after film over many years of Katana development. Here's the example we showed for the Katana 4.0 launch, with that new USD material bake node having replaced the traditional look file bake mechanism. Here the look of the asset is developed on the right hand side, all done in the same way as in previous versions of Katana, the same nodes, the same workflow. The only thing that's different is the replacement of the look file bake node. And after we've checked the look works with different lighting scenarios using our graph state variable tools, we then continue to bake it out. In this example we're writing out just one variant, but the export process enables you to easily bake multiple variants at the same time. Here it is written out as drone look 01, and once we've written it out we switch over to viewing the packaged asset. Right now it has an empty look. Next we change the reference look in an external editor, a step we've made easier in newer versions. Once we've done this, we switch back to Katana, and as you can see, the packaged asset is done and ready to send to other departments. A lot of engineering went into making this new mechanism available for studios and artists to build upon, as everything to do with our reading and writing of USD data is shipped in our external repository, and we've continued to build on those tools since our last major release. USD scale support was added in 4.0 v2, and in 4.0 v3 we added the ability to write out some RenderMan specific attributes using the USD RI schema, as well as the material network layout, colours and expansion state using the USD UI Node Graph Node API, with more work planned such as exporting lights in upcoming releases, all open source, all available to help you integrate Katana and reduce the pain points of moving between applications. Katana, the Look Development and Lighting team and everyone at Foundry are committed to reducing the friction in your day-to-day workflows, and I haven't even got to the exciting new piece of that puzzle yet. Before I get to that, the other part of the USD equation inside Katana is our Hydra-based viewer. We fundamentally changed the way we deliver data in the Hydra viewer in Katana 4.0, laying the groundwork for adding render delegate support for future versions of Katana, and we'll be working closely with our render partners to bring those to you. We also plan on adding a Foundry specific render delegate using the same technology that powers both Modo and Mari's viewports. This will enable us to improve on the visual fidelity of the viewer and to leverage some of the wonderful GL approximations of our render partners available in Mari, once again reducing the gap between applications. We also plan to bring instancing and volumes into the viewer in upcoming releases as well. Our version of USD has always been limited by our VFX reference platform, and the Katana team right now are currently working on VFX reference platform 2020, and this is going to enable us to move to a newer version of USD this year. It's also going to enable us to move to Python 3.7, but if you're not ready for that move, don't worry, the next version of Katana will be able to support both Python 2 and Python 3 versions. So, what's next? Ask anyone who's used Katana in production what makes it so special, and it won't be long before you hear them mention its sequence and shot-based workflows. The ability to work on lots of shots at the same time and apply lighting and other changes quickly and easily on multiple shots, a sequence, or even possibly across a whole show. Now with Katana 4.0 and the Foresight feature, we enable artists to quickly and easily get feedback for all those shots. Users could start multiple renders either on their local machine, on the immediate network, the farm, or potentially even the cloud, and have those renders streaming back to Katana, all at the same time. But our vision for that wasn't complete. For those that don't know what the limitations of Foresight are, let me quickly explain. With Katana 4.0, like displayed here, when I make a change to a light or anything else while performing a live render, the parameter change goes through a few steps before an attribute change is sent to the renderer. The live rendering system has always worked like this, but the limitation is that the same attribute change is sent to all live renders right now, whether the parameter change applies to them or not. This makes it impossible to make shot-specific changes when rendering multiple shots. Don't get me wrong, Foresight is still useful when doing lighting for a sequence or checking a material on lots of assets, but our next step is to remove that limitation with Foresight Plus. Here it isn't attribute changes that are the currency that is exchanged between Katana and the render process, but the changes to the Katana operations themselves. Soon you'll be able to sit back and start as many renders as you need, and nail your lighting throughout the day and make sure everything is just right in all your shots. giving you clear feedback rather than waiting until the next day for an overnight render. Even with the catalogue and monitor changes in Katana 4.0, we think it is time all these renders got the new home they deserve. And this new home is the Render Hub. Fully metadata driven, so you can find renders based on the shot or asset used or when they were rendered. You'll also be able to view as many shots as you need live inside one tab. This new tab will form the backbone of all the Imageit tools moving forward. Earlier on I mentioned the next exciting piece of the puzzle, and it is related to the work we've just been talking about. Once you have the ability to start another process either on your local machine, the farm or the cloud, what else might a lighter want to do with that? What about live nuke compositing, right there in your Katana window, updating live as you do your lighting? More and more the disciplines of lighting and compositing are interlinked, and with this upcoming feature, the difficulties of moving from one application to the other start to vanish. We've already done some prototyping in this area. Now the actual experience will probably be somewhat different, but here you can see a render live inside Katana is streaming to Nuke, going through a simple compositing process, in this case some colour correction and defocusing, and then streaming back to Katana. When this block of work is complete, the Nuke process could be run without the UI and sitting in the farm, enabling you to composite all those renders coming in through Foresight Plus, using remote machines to reduce the load on your local machine while seeing the renders inside Katana. Just generating another entry in the Render Hub. With so many exciting projects that our clients have been working on needing a tight integration between lighting and compositing, it would be great to help couple Katana and Nuke more tightly and reduce any pipeline friction. So, in future versions of Katana, an artist will be at the centre of a new infrastructure that empowers them to render and comp 25, 50, maybe even 100 shots, and turning our artists into super artists. And that concludes our presentation. So thank you all very much for listening, and make sure you catch the other Foundry Live presentations.